we learned that Israel actually translates its military power onto the negotiation table, just like it did with in Camp David and Oslo? Haven't we learned from that? I mean, haven't we really learned from that? The previous Jordanian minister, actually, of Exterior, was once asked in an interview, so do you get Israeli vegetables, or actually Palestinian-occupied vegetables, to be accurate, onto your household? Do you eat them? He said no. So why do you then import them? He said, well, it's good for the economy and the peace process. This twisted logic worked with the British, the English, when arguing for slavery. Why wasn't slavery banned? Well, oh, it was good for the economy. It was the same twisted logic when Ronald Reagan refused, first, before he was actually pressured by the Black Box, he refused to sign the boycott statement declaring boycotting of South African companies during apartheid. He was, of course, then later pressured onto signing them, and he did. So, actually, Israel now is facing a lot of pressure from Europe. It has launched a campaign a month ago, headed by Lieberman, to oppose the existential threat created by the boycott movement that was actually intensified after Gaza 2009. When over 34 campuses in Britain actually occupied their campuses and fought to boycott Israel academically. What about Hampshire College here in the US? BDS worked for them too. The Irish and Scottish trade unions, Sussex University, Bolivia, Venezuela diplomatically boycotted, COSATO, the Union of South African Dock Workers. Gaza is our Guernica. It is our South Africa moment. We have the higher moral ground. Those who are actually familiar with the history of revolutions know that Sharpeville, the importance of Sharpeville 1960 massacre in South Africa, and how it was capable of mobilizing an international solidarity movement based on the Black South African call for BDS, Boycott, Divestment and Sanctions. The world must know, just as there was a moral obligation for BDS in South Africa, the same applies to Palestine. South Africa now is a multicultural, multi-religious, multinational state that got liberated and free. It did not fight for independence. Israel is one of the few states in the world that does not have a constitution. It defines itself as a state for the Jews. That is actually opposing democracy on every level. Gaza 2009 achieved what Sharpeville 1960 was capable of doing. However, the South Africa struggle was based on 4 pillars of struggle. The South Africa Liberation Movement was based on 4 pillars of struggle that included armed resistance, mass mobilization, a clear-cut political underground, and a strong international solidarity movement. Unfortunately, the Palestinian leadership has no clue about this. The BDS does not show on their radar. After Gaza 2009, Hamas, unlike Hezbollah, did not invest the victory of the Palestinians in Gaza in a constructive manner. Boycott, as I said, is nowhere registered in their information systems. However, we do have a growing international solidarity movement that must be built on. Started with the votes and ended with the Cairo Declaration, which is a historic document and was actually, and for those of you who don't know the Cairo Declaration, it was actually written by, ironically, South African comrades, and which for the first time admitted to solidarity to the cause of Palestine, but with certain elements in it, admitting to the military occupation, to the right of return, self-determination of the Palestinians, and the admittance that Israel is an apartheid. Of course, endorsing boycott. Rather than building on these initiatives, for example, the fatwa producing industry of Al-Azhar focuses on the wall of shame, rather than issuing a call for boycott of the Zionist entity. We are asking you here to lobby for BDS in the US. Obama now claims to have read Franz Fanon. He was reciting Quranic verses, and the natives in Egypt and the natives were just swooning at him in awe, as he actually blamed the victims, completely denied the Nakba, and actually said that the Palestinians have to learn from the African-American civil rights struggle. Mr. Obama seems to have completely neglected the fact that there was no occupation, no dispossession, no ethnic cleansing in the US. Mr. Obama, Israel excelled in implementing these three forms of oppression. Mr. Obama, what is happening to the Palestinians happened to the Native Americans. And our first war criminal would be Christopher Columbus. It is what happened to the Aboriginals in New Zealand and Australia. Settlers colonialism. Let us learn from the four pillars of struggle of South Africa. And armed resistance is part and parcel of this struggle, and is also sanctioned by the Geneva Conventions. Nelson Mandela said that South Africa will not be liberated until Palestine does. Of course, you know, if we return to history, we remember that Nelson Mandela was referred to as a terrorist by Margaret Thatcher and Ronald Reagan. Of course, till now, Margaret Thatcher still sends him letters for he refuses, and why shouldn't he? This is a historic opportunity that cannot wait. Resistance is not holding a pan and banging on it and giving people Kalashnikovs and get them to bomb themselves. Resistance is a pen before the gun. It is a song, it is a word, it is an idea, it is an act, it is a process. Resistance is a culture. It is how Steve Biko, a figure of the South African struggle, defined it to be. Open quote. Not only have the whites been guilty of being on the offensive, but by some skillful maneuver, they have managed to control the responses of the blacks to the provocation. Not only have they kicked the black, but they have also told him how to react to that kick. For a long time, the black has been listening with patience on how best to respond to the kick. But with painful slowness, he is now beginning to show signs that it is in his right and duty to respond to the kick the way he sees